I've always loved playing games. My family's grown up doing it. We still do it now in my house. And that's come in handy when it's been time to spend with teenagers or youth group or kids events. And whether it's lock-ins or youth group or camp or retreats or whatever, games always have to take place. It just is an incredible way to pass the time, to bond together, to have some fun. And one day we were playing a game where the object of the game is you're going to kind of make it a little bit darker. You're going to get one person who's it, and that person who's it is going to walk around and kind of whisper in somebody's ears, tag. And if you get tagged, then you're out. And the person who is it wins if they get everybody else out. But they lose and everybody else wins if you can figure out who the person is that's doing that before everyone else gets out. And usually it takes, a few minutes to go through the game. It's not a long game. It's one of those games where you play when you have a little bit of time because more than one person wants to be it, and you can give them a chance to be it. And so this time I had one kid, we'll call him Bob, and Bob was it. And this game is going on, and this game is going on forever. And nobody's getting out. And it just keeps going, and I'm thinking Bob is just being really cautious. He doesn't want to get caught, whatever is going on. And finally, it took so long with nobody getting out that I had to call the game because we had to move on to something else. And we get done, and Bob goes, man, that was the most horrible game I've ever played. Nothing ever happens in it. Why is that game so boring? And I had to look at Bob and say, Bob, you were it. If you had understood your role, you controlled how much fun that game was going to be for you. You had all the power to get people out. You had all the power to make things move faster. You had all the power to make something happen. And instead, you just walked around in the dark and did nothing. And every other kid that was there started kind of piling on Bob about it and giving him a hard time about it. And I don't think Bob ever misunderstood the rules of a game ever again. For a lot of us, the truth about how we live is we kind of live like Bob more than we want to. We are in the midst of something and we don't understand the role that we've been given. And because we don't understand that, we don't understand the power that we have. This incredible power that shapes things in our lives and in the lives of the people that we come in contact with around us. Let me get you in on a little secret. We have incredible power through the words that we say. Words were the heart of so much of what the powerful positions that God put in place in the Old Testament were wrapped around. The prophets spoke words, and those words had power to say what was happening and make sense of the world and to give directions towards a preferred future and to warn against the judgments that God might be bringing for those who would not follow his warnings and his promises. Words were a part of the role of the priests. The priests were those that would intercede between God and humanity. They were supposed to make the connection between the two. And one of the big ways they did that was by administering words of blessing. Every other week or so, I will end the service that we have here using a high priestly blessing that the priest would use. This is a blessing I use. The first time I hold a baby, I whisper it to them. The first time I meet somebody when they leave, I tend to say this over them. And this was a blessing of asking God to come and show favor and grace and bring peace to the person that you are speaking about, praying over, blessing. And it was the job of the priest to do this. And guess what? Because we are priests now, especially if you're followers of Christ, we are now a royal priesthood, a holy people. Part of our job, part of the power we have been given through our words is to bless other people, to speak life into their lives. And the problem is we don't realize that, and so we use our words so much more carelessly. Yes, there might be some blessing involved, but there's oftentimes the opposite. And the words that we speak don't speak life, but they speak death. They bring cursing. Because whatever word you use, that word has power. Proverbs 18:21 says it as clearly as I can. The tongue holds the power of life and death. And this power isn't just for the time it takes for you to say it and for somebody else to hear it. Physicists tell us that sound, including everything you've ever said, continues to travel throughout space and time. And it's scary to think that if someone had the right equipment, they could collect everything you have ever said. I know for me, there are some things that I am glad nobody heard, and I'm sure there are some things I'm glad nobody remembers, and I'm worried a little bit that those things still exist. And so I'm thankful for the fact that we have a God who forgives us and forgets it. But there's an opposite side of that that also is powerful. It is amazing to think that anything I've said, including the prayers that you and I have offered, are still echoing out throughout eternity, throughout the universe. That means something like the prayers that I've prayed for my children are going to outlive me. And you and I have been entrusted with the power of words, of the things that we say. And so it would be really good if instead of just being careless with this, we managed it in ways that honored God and actually spoke life into ourselves and into the people that we come in contact with. And so when you think of words, I want you to think of them as being things filled with power. I want you to think of them as being things that speak something into existence. In other words, words that we say have a prophetic effect. For example, have you ever had a day where you've woken up and you hit the alarm and you just knew it, and so you spoke it? This is going to be a horrible day. And guess what? It was. The next day you wake up, you hit the alarm, and you're like feeling pretty good. You got enough sleep the night before. You actually rested and hydrated. All that stuff. Again, you woke up. It's going to be a pretty good day. And it was. Because believe it or not, a lot of times we can be prophetic. When we set the words out there into space, then our attitudes and our actions and the things that we look for and the way we put our attention out there lines up to make those things become true. The problem is, too often, because we're not being intentional, when we speak things out, we speak out curses. We speak them onto ourselves and we speak them onto others. And whatever a curse does is it causes damage. Sometimes this damage you can see, like the look on somebody's face when you've broken their heart by what you've said. Other times it's something that you won't see for a really long time. But we understand this, right? Because if you have ever had those kind of recordings that go on in your head, it used to be that you'd make, like what I did when I was younger, we'd get a radio and it got a tape deck in it, and the song that you wanted would come on the radio, and you'd hit record real quick, and you'd always miss like the first 5 seconds of the song, but you get the rest of it, and you'd play that over and over again. Well, some of us in our head, we've got recordings like that play over and over and over again, and it's not even things we want to have playing there, but it's messages we've got from teachers or coaches or our parents that play over and over again, and they shape who we are, and not in ways that we like. We feel trapped by them. We feel constrained by them. They give us anxiety and worry and inferiority. Mark Batterson tells a story of meeting a guy who was just coming out of rehab. And this is a guy who, while he was responsible for what he chose to do, was set up to make bad choices in his life because his dad had a nickname for him. Stupid. Why'd you do that, stupid? Why don't you pick up the trash, stupid? Why are you even here, stupid? We might not have that level of cursing. But man, that's so much worse than any four-letter word we sometimes throw around and say, don't say in front of the kids. I wonder if sometimes it would have been better for us to have said some things you can't say on TV than for our children and for our spouses to hear the frustrated sighs or the angry outbursts that have come from us and the words that have followed them. When we do that, we are speaking something over them. We're speaking something that's going to wound them, and more often than not is going to lead to bad choices and broken identities. It's going to lead to something that needs to be healed. And the thing that gave power to give life was used in a way that took it in that place. It's sad reality that all of us know how that works. But the power of words doesn't just take life, it can give it as well. And one of the things that happens when we bless people with our words is that the life that comes can bring healing even to the things that have been damaged before. Just because something's been spoken over you doesn't mean that it has to own you. There are words that can rewrite the curses that you and I have inherited. Sometimes we think those experiences and those words have to be earth-shattering, like we've got to sit down and rewrite Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address to get it just right, or we've got to make a speech in front of the Oscars that are going to be nominated for something, or something that's going to move people to tears. And the truth is, it doesn't have to be an earth-shattering thing. Sometimes the most simple words speak the loudest. If you want to speak life over people that you care about, if you want to change what some people are used to seeing in their life, start by speaking encouragement. Encouragement fuels our spirit. The truth is that it takes 5 positive, encouraging statements to equal the weight of one negative statement. So it's 5 to 1 ratio. The 5 have such power. They fuel us, they give us energy, they give us passion, they heal the things that are broken within us. And it is so easy to give those things. And they're not things that even have to be profound or big. When I was getting ordained, I had General Superintendent J.K. Work, that was the General Superintendent in jurisdiction, who was doing my ordination. It was kind of at a time when I was feeling kind of iffy about my abilities and following God. And even though I'd reached this stage, I was wondering, was it just me putting on a show? Was it just performative? Was it an act? Or was this something that God was really going to be able to use me for? And as we're going along, this is somebody who I literally had never talked to personally, except in a group setting with kind of generic questions that everybody was getting and all those things. But right before we went to get pictures taken, he came over to me like he'd gone to everybody else, and he gave us each one personal moment. When he came up to me, he looked me in the eye and he said, "We believe in you. The whole church is behind you, and you will do this. Not you can do this or you may do this, but you will do this." And those are words that are so precious to me. I cling to them. They've spoken to me over and over and over again on those days when things have been incredibly rough, or when I'm wondering what I'm doing, or I don't know if I'm going to be able to want to keep doing this tomorrow. those words speak life over me fresh again. To speak life is to speak encouragement. And when we do that, that encouragement often changes how people see themselves. We need a little help to see sometimes. When my daughter's got her glasses on and she gets caught in the rain, the dots of the raindrops when they dry are all over the place, and she can't see clearly, and she's got to take the time to take them off and clean them to be able to see herself as she truly, or see the world as it truly is again. And that's what happens a lot of times with us when we've been caught up in all of the things that happen in our lives. For us to really see who we are again, we got to have someone come and help us clean this stuff up. Lori Beth Jones says the true spirit of prophecy is encouraging the people around us to see themselves as God sees them. In other words, see themselves as they really are. And we do that by balancing grace and truth, just like Jesus, who came and lets us know, like we should tell other people, hey, no matter what, I love you, and no matter what, I'm going to tell you the truth. And those two things have to work together, because otherwise you're a jerk, or you're not a very good friend. You need both in order to bring healing. You have to treat it and cover it to let it heal. This isn't a license to just say whatever you want to say. I'm just speaking the truth. This isn't a license to be a jerk. This is a license to love well and speak life into people's lives. And I want to challenge us in this too. Because I want to speak words that give life not just now, but for eternity. The role of the priest was to connect people to God. So is God a natural part of the words that you speak with others? Is it something just in your private time, or does God ever come up in conversation that you have with the people around you? Mark Batterson says evangelism is bragging about God to others. When was the last time you did that? When we speak God over people, it bursts something in those who hear it. So simply talk about Him. What's going on in your own heart? How has He spoken or shown up for you? And you never know what the fruit of those echoes will do as you use the word of your testimony to overcome. Words are powerful, and so we have to be intentional about how we use them. Jesus said, I tell you that everyone will have to give an account on the day of judgment for every empty word they've spoken. Matthew 12:36. That, to be honest, that challenges me a little bit. Like every word? Do I really have to care about all of them? When I was in college, we had a guy named Adam who lived on our floor, and Adam was great until he went to sleep. You see, Adam was one of the first ones to go to bed every night while everyone else was staying up, goofing off and playing GoldenEye. And he would get up and would start walking around, acting out his dreams. He didn't just sleepwalk, he didn't just have dreams. He would act out his dreams. You could talk to him and he would talk back to you like you were in his dreams. And that was all fun until we realized that Adam was a hunter and he stored his bow and arrow in his room. And one time, he got up before anyone realized it and he loaded up his bow and he shot something. It just happened to be a pillow on the other side of the room. But the damage had been done. And it could have been so much worse. I think that's what the case is with our words when we don't realize it. I think that's why Jesus holds us accountable for them, even when we don't take them intentionally. It's because everything that we shoot out of our mouths may hit something, intentionally or unintentionally. According to Jesus' brother James, it's not going to be easy. The hardest thing to tame, you may think, is a house cat. I don't know how you get a house cat to do anything you want it to do. But according to James, the hardest thing to tame is actually your own mouth, your own tongue, the words that you say. So here's some things that may help you with that. First is, don't try to do it alone. Remember that Paul tells us over and over again that we are in Christ and that Christ is in us. And that matters because that means that we have supernatural help available in every instant. And I'll tell you what, there are some days when I need all of that to keep this from saying things that I want to say to people. But don't try and do it alone. Use God to help you. And then be slow to speak. Proverbs 13:3 said, "He who guards his lips guards his life, but he who speaks rashly will come to ruin." Just because I think it doesn't mean I need to verbalize it out loud, because words can literally spread to millions of people now. That's what social media does for you if you haven't realized it, and that's what a lot of the cancel culture and other things, the propaganda machine, all of that runs on the fact that I can put something out now and it can be on the other side of the world in a minute. So be careful what you say. And if you do that, you will save yourself and others pain. I know that most of the times I've had to apologize to my children has not been for things I've calmly thought through and spoke to them. It's about the times where they caught me off guard, or the times when something happened and before I could be slow to speak, I opened my mouth too soon. Maybe even be willing to stay silent from time to time. I think sometimes we think if we stay silent, doesn't that mean the other person wins? And we hate to see people that we know are wrong win an argument, win a discussion, win at life. And so we love to be able to come back with something. And there's something emotionally satisfying about having the right thing to say at the right time to really get them, to kind of give them that zinger, to let them know you've won the battle, to put them to bed. I get that. But what are we really doing in that moment? Have we really solved a problem? Have we changed a mind? Have we won a heart? Have we brought life that we've spoken over in this situation? We have the power of life and death in the words that we say over each other and to each other. We are a royal priesthood called to administer blessing and not cursing to ourselves, to our family, to our church, to our community. It's not a light thing that we've been entrusted with. So maybe, more than anything else today, I just want you to be willing to own that. That God has chosen you to speak life into people and into situations. Maybe sit on that for a while. Be in all of that. Give thanks of it. Get over all the, God, are you sure you want to use me for this? Let all that out. Because this isn't just something for some people somewhere. This is for you. Right here and right now. And after you've done that, I want you to ask yourself a second question. How's it going? If it's gone poorly, if this isn't something that you've been really good about, maybe it's time for a little confession and repentance before God. And let Him know that you can't do it alone. If you're ready to commit to doing it even better than you've done before, if you're ready to get intentional about it, talk to God about that. Make that commitment with Him. And when you need His help, He's always ready to do it with you. But imagine what you could create if you knew the words you spoke would go beyond yourself. And they would have the power to speak life or death over the people you care about the most. over the situations that you are so worried about that you don't know what to do. And in the places where you see the most brokenness, there could be a blessing that comes from you that starts to break the chains that are holding you down and starts to bring healing to the places that need it the most. Lord, I pray that you would remind us that what we say really matters, and that you have equipped us with the power to be able to speak life into these places. So don't let us live speaking words that are empty, but may we be intentional about it. May we do it on purpose. May we lean into who you have called us to be and the fact that you are the one that empowers us and that is with us to say what needs to be said in order that healing could take place and chains could break and futures could be secured and curses could be removed. Lord, use us. Forgive us. And help us, we pray. Amen.